All right. Hey, my name is Jason Hawkins, and I'm your teacher today for your Soul Quest class. Um, I'm here live in my office from Odessa, Missouri. Some of you have probably had me in class some of the last few years at Soul Quest. So if I know you, hi, good to see you. If I don't, nice to meet you, whatever. But I'm here this morning to talk to you about. Oh, Oh, hold on just a second. Hold on. Oh, sorry about that. Sorry. My daughter, Eva, needed me for a second. Sorry about that. So anyway, what was I saying? Class. I'm teaching Soul Quest class for you today. And oh, wait a minute. Hello? Oh, hey. Yeah. Well, I'm teaching right now. So, all right. I'll talk to you later. Okay. Thanks. All right. Oh, sorry about that. Sorry. Let me turn down my volume so that doesn't happen again. So, all right. So, this morning, I want to spend some time talking to you about. Yeah, I need to go to the bathroom. Hold on. Just kidding. My topic is interruptions, and I wanted to give you some examples. Thank you, Eva. Examples of interruptions. And so I want to thank my daughter for helping me out with that. But anyway, there's all kinds of interruptions, and what I've just shown you with the phone call and needing to go to the restroom and things like that are little daily interruptions that happen all the time. And that could be anything from our phone to when we're talking, people interrupt us sometimes. That really annoys me. I don't know about you. That could be a flat tire. That could be getting called into work on your day off. That could be rain when you're going to have a picnic. All of these are daily, regular, just normal interruptions. And you might, for a start-off question, you can either do this when I'm done or you can stop the video now. But a good start-off question would be, how do you handle daily interruptions? Because some people handle that better than others. Sometimes it depends on how good of a multitasker you are, or how good of a multitasker you think you are. But and sometimes we handle different types of interruptions different. Some things I can deal with, other things not. I just want you to visit about that, like what that reveals about your personality, how good you are at handling the interruptions that life gives you. But it's not just daily interruptions I want to talk about, because really what I want to talk about is our bigger life interruptions that we have. And I want to distinguish the two by saying not just the things that could happen every day, but the things that come along every so often in life, or maybe once in a lifetime. The most obvious, elephant in the room example for all of us right now is the whole COVID-19 thing. Nobody saw that coming. And boy, did that interrupt our life for a while. Am I right? Completely interrupted our lives. That's an example. Another would be a death of a family member. That could interrupt your life. Losing your job. We talked about being called into work. That's a daily interruption, but losing your job is one of the bigger life interruptions. Maybe you're forced to move or your family moves. That's a big life interruption. Maybe you have a falling out or a breakup or somebody dumps you, or when you're an adult, your spouse leaves you. You have a divorce. So even good, a lot of these are negative things, but even positive things like having a child is an interruption. There are positive things that can be interruptions too, but there are these life interruptions, and I think it's interesting that we usually think of interruptions on the negative side, because we like things to go as we have them planned. What I want to challenge you with this morning is that sometimes God interrupts our life, or he uses interruptions. And that's two different things, and we're going to talk about that. But if God is at work in interruptions, then can we always think of them as negative things, or should we always think of them as negative things? And I guess that's a challenge question you can think of right now to yourselves. But if God is at work in interruptions, which I believe he is, sometimes maybe causing them, sometimes working through them. If God is at work in these things, do we need to change how we look at them if we are accustomed to completely looking at them in a negative light? And so, to talk about this, I want to use a story. So we're gonna break this up into two parts: when God interrupts our life and when God uses interruptions. So to talk about when God interrupts our life, I want to use an example from the Bible, and this is in Luke chapter 5, verses 1 through 11. I'm just going to read this real quick, and I want you to think about the way God, the way Jesus in this case, is interrupting these people's lives. So it says in Luke chapter 5, one day, as Jesus was preaching on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, great crowds pressed in on him to listen to the word of God. He noticed two empty boats at the water's edge, for the fishermen had left them and were washing their nets. Now, what does that mean? That means we've had a long night. We've been fishing, all night, and we're done. I don't know if you've ever had that feeling before when you've been at work and it's been a long, hard, maybe even unproductive day, but there's one of the greatest feelings is when you've had a day like that and you're finished and you're finally finishing up. I used to work for my dad's construction crews, and every day was like that. Whenever the foreman told us it was time to pick up the tools, that was like, there was just some sort of an excitement and a relief that came over me because I was ready to be done at that point. So that's kind of what's going on with these guys, I think, at this point. Stepping into one of the boats, Jesus asked Simon, its owner, Simon Peter is who we know this guy as, to push it out into the water. So he sat in the boat and taught the crowds from there. Now, already Peter's day is, routine is being interrupted, but, he seems to go along with it so far. When he finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Now go out where it is deeper and let down your nets to catch some fish." "Master," Simon replied, "we worked hard all last night and didn't catch a thing. But if you say so, I'll let the nets go down again." And I don't know if you read this, but I feel there's some frustration here. Or at least I know if I were Peter, I would be. We've been working all night. I want you to be aware of the fact that, they said they were cleaning their nets. So they have to get the nets dirty again. We haven't caught anything. They're not biting, basically, is what he's saying. But if you say so, we'll do it. You ever been like that? When your parents or someone of authority, your boss, tells you to do something and in your opinion, it's not something that needs to be done. I'll do it, but just let me tell you that this is a waste of time. And maybe if you don't speak it, you at least think it. I bet a lot of times we actually speak it. But that's kind of what I read here between Simon Peter and Jesus. So he said, "But if you say so, I'll let down the nets." This time, their nets were so full of fish, they began to tear. A shout for help brought their partners in the other boat, and soon both boats were filled with fish on the verge of sinking. Now, I don't know this for sure, but I'm pretty certain that this had never happened before, that they had never had this good of a day fishing in their careers. So I want to highlight the fact that these guys have just had the best day of their career. They have filled both boats with fish. Like, this is like what you dream about. And this has just happened. So they fill their boats with fish, and to the point where the boats are on the verge of sinking. When Simon Peter realized what had happened, he fell to his knees before Jesus and said, "Oh Lord, please leave me. I'm such a sinful man." So this just Jesus' actions and his power and the revealing of who he is affected Peter in a great way. And he had a humble stance of repentance. "I'm a sinful man. Leave me alone." For he was awestruck by the number of fish they had caught, as were the others with him. His partners, James and John, the sons of Zebedee, were also amazed. Jesus replied to Simon, "Don't be afraid. From now on, you'll be fishing for people." And as soon as they landed, they left everything and followed Jesus. What an interruption. First of all, their daily routine is interrupted. So we have an example of a daily interruption first, the first time we talked about. But then by the end of the story, they have left their jobs on the best day of their careers. They've left their jobs and they've completely gone off to do something else that's going to go on for, a couple years. And so what a life interruption. And sometimes when we're serious about following God, he will interrupt our life like this. And the Bible is filled with these stories. Think of these names and think of how their lives were interrupted. Noah, go build an ark. Abraham, leave your people and follow me. Where? I ain't going to tell you. Moses, I'm going to make you my spokesperson. And remember how Moses, resisted that and argued about that to the point where he had to have Aaron be the spokesperson. But, Moses was interrupted. Gideon's life was interrupted. David's life was interrupted. Mary, the mother of Jesus, what about that interruption? You're going to go from being a teenage girl to being the mother of the Son of God. Whoa. And then Saul, who was turned to Paul. Paul was interrupted on he was persecuting Christians and blinded. These are all examples of God intentionally coming in and saying, I've got a better plan for you. I'm going to interrupt your life. So how do we respond to God in these kind of interruptions? Because I think where our hearts are now are going to determine how we respond to God when this happens. Are our hearts open to that? I recently was preaching a sermon on repentance, and when Jesus and John the Baptist both started their ministry by saying, repent, for the kingdom of God is at hand, the original Greek translation of that word repent was change your mind or alter your mind. And really, it's about having an open mind and an open heart. Repentance isn't a one-time thing. It's a position we take in life. And I'll talk about that just a little bit more in a second. But there are other kind of interruptions that I think we'd see God working in are the ones where we're not going to say he caused the interruption, but he works in it. Kind of like what I see happening in a lot of examples in my life and in the life of others that are close to me with the whole shutdown and the COVID-19. We wish we were at Soul Quest right now, but what has God been doing to work through this? What has he taught us? What has he shown us? I don't know about you, but he's taught me a lot. There's an example of this in Acts chapter 8, where God uses something that I don't think God caused to happen, but he uses it to bring about something really good. He used it for an opportunity, an interruption. In Acts chapter 8, something terrible has just happened. And let me go back just a little further. The Acts is the story of the church and the early Christians after Jesus ascends to heaven, and about how God worked to grow the church and to spread the church. So when we start the book of Acts, we've got the apostles in Jerusalem, and the day of Pentecost happens, and the church grows, if you want to read about it in Acts chapter 2, and the church just keeps growing, and these guys are growing in boldness, they're growing in popularity. It says in Acts 2 that people are being added to the church every day. And it's no surprise that as the church grows, so does the opposition against the church. So these things are happening at the same time. There were people opposed to Jesus, opposed to the church, opposed to the Christians, the Jewish people at this point, most likely. Later, it was the Romans doing the persecuting, but at this point, it's the same people that had killed Jesus, the Jewish religious leaders. And so the opposition is growing against Christianity, and it kind of comes to this boiling point in Acts chapter 7 when Stephen, this awesome Christian, is stoned to death. It's the first recorded Christian martyr. And what I want to point out to you is what happens after Stephen is stoned. It says in the beginning of Acts chapter 8, a great wave of persecution began that day, sweeping over the church in Jerusalem, and all the believers except the apostles were scattered through the regions of Judea and Samaria. Some devout men came to bury Stephen with great mourning, but Saul was going everywhere to destroy the church. He went from house to house, dragging out both men and women to throw them into prison. I really want to just focus on the first verse there, though. That as this great wave of persecution broke out, it caused the church to have to scatter and flee. Now, persecution of Christians, people having to leave their homes, people having to run in fear, good or bad? We immediately say bad, right? And it is. It's bad. I don't think Jesus, or I don't think God planned for Stephen to be stoned. I think God planned for people to be persecuted. I don't think God ever wants these things to happen. But the point is, God uses even these things to happen, because when the church is persecuted and starts spreading, that means the truth, the gospel, the good news is going to other places. And that's how all these other churches and all these other places started getting formed, because these Christians were having to leave. I'm doing a lot of this, sorry. But I just want you to think about this as an example of how God uses interruptions and a lot of other things to bring us opportunity. God uses interruption to bring us opportunity. So I want to talk real quick as we close about God's stance and our stance. Romans 8:28 gives us a great description of God's position when it comes to interruptions, okay? When it comes to any interruptions, and when it comes to anything that happens in life. God's stance is, Romans 8:28, God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love him and who are called according to his purpose. So if we have made our lives about following Christ and advancing his kingdom and being about his work, then if we let him, he will use everything to bring out opportunities of goodness. That's God's position. So what does our position need to be? I talked about this a little bit earlier. We need to be open to that. We need to be ready for that. As Ephesians 5:16 says, and I think this is a great verse about what our position needs to be about interruptions, especially. Paul says in Ephesians 5:16, same Paul that was killing Christians earlier, Paul says, make the most of every opportunity. Make the most of every opportunity. And it's hard for us to do this, but when things happen, whether they're good or bad, but especially when we consider them interruptions in our life, like the shutdown with COVID-19, when things like that happen, what do we as Christ followers need to say? We need to say, God, how are you going to work in this? God, where's the opportunity? And it might not make itself known right away, but if we're patient, I believe God will bless us. So with all this, I just have some discussion questions. If you guys are with your youth groups and are watching this together, here are some questions. I started out with, how do you handle daily interruptions? And you might add to that, how do you handle life interruptions, like bigger life interruptions? Another good question is, share an example of how you have experienced a life interruption and how you reacted to it. Another question, have you seen God work good in these interruptions? Do you have examples in your life of seeing God work good things through interruptions that maybe you thought were bad at first? And maybe they were bad, but God still worked good in them. Another question, discuss the difference between these two questions, because I do believe God causes interruptions sometimes, but I don't believe it's good to just attribute everything that happens to God. God did it, God did it, God did it. So which of these, what is the difference, I guess, is what I'm asking you to discuss between these two questions. Why did God do this? Or how will God work through this? Talk about how we reacted. Which question is better for us to ask? Why did God do this? Or how will God work through this? Talk about that. And finally, what do you need to do to make the most of every opportunity God gives you? You know, we talked about that stance we need to have of being open to God's work, being looking for his opportunities. What do you need to do in your life right now to make you more ready for that, to make you more prepared for the opportunities God's going to bring and for the interruptions that are going to come in life, and to be able to see those interruptions as opportunities. Thanks for spending time with me. That's my class. I hope you got something out of that. I hope this leads to some good discussion. Let me pray for you real quick. God, I just want you, I don't have any idea who's watching this, but I just pray that you will bless them. You will not only bless their time together right now and this week, but you will bless them and you will draw them close to you so that when life happens, when interruptions happen, they will be ready to look for you to work. God, I pray for this in the name of Christ. Amen. Have a great day, guys. I'm gone. Go Chiefs.